היום 13 יום שהם שבוע אחד ושישה ימים לעומר. Today is the 13th day of the Omer, which makes one complete week and 6 days and corresponds Kabbalistically to Yesod of Gevurah. Yesod is the foundation and Gevurah is the week in which we think about boundaries and we think about restraint and we think about resistance. And when I think about this week's Parsha that we just read, it is, as I said earlier, a lot about restraint and boundaries. What is it okay to bring and what is it not okay to bring? Where is our tradition bound by the boundaries of our tradition? The language and the structure and the form of our tradition, and when does it have room for creativity and expression? And does it relate to every aspect of our life, as I think it does? Clearly it relates to what we eat, because we just read a tremendously long list of animals that we're forbidden from eating. But if it's about our mouth, it must also relate to what we say and how we speak and how we interact. And also about our practices and about what we share and what we don't share. And the story that we didn't read at the beginning of the Parsha about Nadav and Avihu offering this Eish Zara, this strange or alien fire, what is that? Do we bring alien fire or do we bring Eish Kodesh? Do we bring holy fire? What is the difference actually between Eish Kodesh and Eish Zara, between a holy type of fire and a fire that is seen as alien? And what is it that really happened that let them experience this awful death that led to Aaron's inability to speak? There's so much in that I could talk about. And also just the fact that here we are on the calendar in the last days of the month of Nisan, and in this period of counting the Omer, where we're not just counting the days between Pesach and Shavuot, but we're also including the days that I mentioned just before. Yom HaShoah last week, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut, these days on our modern calendar where we remember the Shoah, the Holocaust, where we think about the state of Israel and the complexity of what it's okay to say and what it's not okay to say, and the fact that we have such diversity among us and people who are very fired up with Eish Kodesh, with holy fire, but in different directions that fire is burning. And so when I think about Yesod of Gevurah, and when I think about this Parsha, because there is this very profound moment that the rabbis tell us is the exact midpoint of the Torah. Some would argue it's not actually the midpoint of the Torah, but for now let's assume it is the midpoint of the Torah. Is this emphatic word, darash doresh, or is it doresh darash? Dorosh darash, which is a doubling up of the root that is about midrash, about digging out, expounding meaning, right? And the context of it is Moshe kind of upset with his brother, even though his brother has just lost his 2 oldest sons, saying like, we've got all these instructions, we've got all these laws, and there's like this chatat, there's this sin offering, why didn't you bring it? Why aren't you and your remaining sons eating it? And Aaron's sort of like, excuse me? How can I right now? And there's this profound moment that this doubling up of this, like it's emphatically saying, really seek it out. So on the one hand, we have the Gevurah, the boundaries of our tradition that really are sacred to me and to many of us, the structures of what we have. And then there's the places where we have to have our humanity in check, where we have to recognize that some people can't or won't. You know, really there's this in-between stage before someone is actually in Avelut, before they're actually officially a mourner, where they're in Ananut. And Ananut is this in-between place where actually a person in that state is kind of forbidden from prayer, or at least they're exempt from prayer. They don't have to pray People who have this traditional understanding of chiyuv, which is an obligation, and people who are guided by chiyuv say, I have an obligation to pray 3 times a day, but when I'm in this state where my loved one is lying before me and has not yet been buried, I'm exempt from that. In the same way that Aaron and his sons were exempt from that offering. And I think that is a really important to recognize that sometimes we're all in that state. We live in a world where we're sometimes all in that state of ananu, where are we exempt or are we obligated? Because once a mourner becomes a mourner and they've buried their loved one, traditionally they're then obligated to pray. What was either a prohibition or at least an exemption from becomes an obligation to. And there's this sort of really interesting time in our culture, in our tradition. And I want to think about what it is in this world where everything feels so chaotic and we're pulling ourselves apart. Internally, I feel like I'm pulling myself apart sometimes. Externally, we're pulling each other apart. Different feelings, different opinions, different ideas. And it's like, what is it that is the yesod of Gevurah? What is it that really keeps us together, keeps us here, keeps us sane? And I think a lot of it is our traditions. And so I want to offer this idea that on Shabbat, the rabbis tell us, even though we know how broken the world is, even though we know how much pain and suffering, how much injustice there is, that we imagine on Shabbat a sense of shlemut, that everything is whole. There's nothing missing. There's nothing missing from the world. The world is perfect just as it is. After Shabbat, we can go back into the brokenness and what we are each doing to help repair the world. But right now, we're imagining the world as completely whole. And you know where it shows up? God's whole world on this penultimate day of Nisan is in this bracha that is known as Birkat Ha'ilanot, the blessing of the trees. That the rabbis tell us we can only say once a year during the month of Nisan when we see blossoms on trees that are giving edible fruits. So if you haven't said the bracha yet, if you want to look out of that window, in the piece of land between my house and the shul, there are 2 apple trees that have blossom on them. And, sorry, live stream people. And you can still see the blossoms. And if you were close, you could still smell the blossoms. And the rabbis, in their creativity, were not offering this as Eish Zarah, as alien fire, but as Eish Kodesh, as beautiful holy fire, came up with a bracha that says, Shelo chiseh be'olamo klum, that says there is nothing lacking from the world, not a single thing. Uvara bo b'ri'ot tovot v'ilanot tovot lehit anot bahem b'nei adam. And that beautiful trees and beautiful creatures were created in the world for the human beings to take enjoyment. How extraordinary to think of a law, a halakha, that tells us that this is a blessing that we can only say once a year during the month of Nisan when the trees are blossoming. And yet it's talking about a world that has nothing lacking from it. And it's talking about the fact that in spite of everything, all of the madness and the chaos and the injustice and the pain, and the fact that there are still 59 hostages in tunnels in Gaza, all of it, that somehow we are obligated, when we participate in the beauty of nature, whether through something we see or something we smell or something we experience, we are obligated to say a blessing. And in fact, the rabbis of the Talmud say, if you appreciate something in the physical world with one of your senses and you don't say a bracha, it's like you've stolen something from the temple. As if to say this world is like this beautiful temple. And in spite of everything, we have this obligation to appreciate its beauty, to see and smell and hear and taste the beauty of the world, and to say blessings correspondingly. What I've always found interesting about this bracha is that there is another bracha that we say after eating a snack. Some of you who are more familiar with the ritual of saying blessings before and after eating food, we have Borei Pri Ha'adama, when we eat something that grows in the ground. Borei Pri Ha'etz, when we bless something that grows on a tree. Hamotzi Lechem Min Ha'aretz, when we eat bread, right? But there's also Shehakol Nieh Bidvaro, when we're just having a snack, even a glass of water, that everything has come into being through God's word. And the blessing we say after that is a blessing that basically says that everything is created with something lacking. And it seems to be a paradox and something very different to this book. It says, Borei nefashot rabot v'chesranan. God, you created all kinds of multitudes of souls and what they lacked. V'chesranan. And so this idea that I'm having a snack and I'm recognizing that I'm not completely satiated, I'm not completely full. I'm not going to do Birkat Hamazon, which says, Ve'achalta v'savato ivarachta, I've eaten and I've been satisfied and now I'm going to bless. I've had a little snack and I recognize that I'm incomplete and I recognize that the world is incomplete, and yet I'm still going to say this bracha sometimes or somehow. And so it seems like this very powerful dichotomy of, on the one hand, we're looking at blossom and smelling blossom on a fruit-bearing tree in the month of Nisan, and we're saying, there's not a single thing that is missing from this world. There's even blossom on the trees. Nothing's missing. And we're here and we're meant to enjoy it and appreciate it and bless the source for the fact that we are able to enjoy and appreciate it. And on the other hand, we recognize that everything is lacking. That each one of us is created flawed and imperfect, and with things that we lack and yearn and crave for. And that we're never going to be fully fulfilled, but we somehow are fulfilled when we really enter into the gift of nature. How I'm relating that to this last day, or this penultimate day of the second week of the Omer, which is all about Gevurah. I don't know actually how I'm relating it to it. But there's something about a tradition that has formulae of blessings that is such a powerful gift to us. And the rabbis, in their wisdom, after the destruction of the Second Temple, created a structure and a formula of different types of blessings for things that we enjoy with our senses. That, to me, even though it seems like the opposite of Gevurah, because it's like, I'm going to smell the blossom, I'm going to look at the blossom, I'm going to see a majestic view in the mountains, or I'm going to see, there's these other two blessings that are extraordinary. If you see, according to the Talmud, a kind of ugly animal or an ugly human being, like who defines someone or a creature as being ugly, you say it's basically about diversity in nature. This amazing blessing that has created diverse forms in nature. And if you see an outstandingly beautiful animal, you say shekaka lo ba'olamo, that has such things in it. And this I think I just want to come back to the rituals that we have, the traditions that we have, that keep us alive, keep us breathing, keep us aware at times where it's really easy just to stop. Those of you who were at the Yom HaShoah commemoration service at Neve Kodesh on Wednesday night, there was a really beautiful moment where we came into Chavruta, studying with pairs or small groups some of these texts that were written by someone who perished in the Holocaust. And she was like 21 or something when she died, and she left a legacy of writing, some of it was all about the importance of self-care, the importance of taking care of ourselves and being able to stop and breathe. So at a time where some of us feel urgently called to issues of justice, whatever those issues of justice might be, it's also really important to have Shabbat. It's really important to breathe. It's really important to stop. It's really important to appreciate the beauty of the world on this last Shabbat of Nisan, and to say a bracha for blossom, and to recognize that as imperfect and broken as the world is, there are ways in which the world is absolutely perfect and complete and whole. And when we say a bracha, we're sort of acknowledging that there's something going on way beyond our understanding, for which we can say, Baruch Hashem, thank God. So I have some copies that my mother kindly cut into threes for me. If people want to take, because it's not in the Siddur, if people want to take a copy of this bracha, and if like during Kiddush you find yourself feeling moved to go and look at a tree with blossom on it, this is your last chance to say this bracha for blossom.
Perhaps we're heralding the week of Tiferet that is coming.
Yeah.
Which is beauty and balance.
Very nice, yeah. So Janice is reminding us that the third week of the Omer, which will start on Monday, Sunday night, is the week of Tiferet, which is about holding that balance between the two. The first week was all about Chesed, which is all about this unbounded kind of love. The second week that we're coming to the end of is about Gevurah, which is about these boundaries that we're talking about. And the third week is this beautiful balancing between them. My favorite way of understanding that relationship between Chesed and Gevurah and Tiferet, I first learned from Rabbi Art Green, who talks about thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Right? The thesis is Chesed, love. The antithesis is boundaries. And the synthesis is Tiferet, which kind of lets them all kind of be in flow together. And so in a way, you could say that the week of Tiferet that we're going to go into next week is about the balance between the Eish Kodesh and the Eish Sarah. The Eish Sarah, the strange or alien fire, that was something that was offered that was not somehow right. We'll never really know exactly what wasn't right about it, but we do know that Aaron's two sons were consumed in fire because of it. And so there's something about that and the Eish Kodesh, the holiness of our rituals, of our blessings, of our traditions of Shabbat, that kind of link us together. And when we have those two together, on the one hand, the boundaried way in which we have this beautiful tradition, and the importance sometimes to be a little flexible and have creativity in it. That's kind of what Tiferet is, that dance that allows us to take the tradition and play with them a little bit, but not abandon them. Because for me, our traditions are what hold us and keep us sane. So let's breathe, let's say blessings, go appreciate the blossoms, say a blessing over them, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.